So it was decided. The crown should pass to Whisker's new. Arise, young prince, for the kingdom needs a hero. And so, your tale begins.
Tales of Iron is a 2021 2D side-scrolling action RPG that involves us controlling Redgi the rat as we take on grubs, mosquitoes, zombie rats, and our mortal enemies, frogs. Wait, is that Geralt from The Witcher? Okay, this game is an automatic banger now. By the way, does this count as a Metroidvania? I know fanbases can be super strict on game classifications, and I'll probably be crucified if I called it that or if I neglect to call it one, so I'll pose the question for safety. Regardless, Tales of Iron was developed by the studio Oddbug, an indie studio that thought this may just be their last game, which is part of the motivation that ultimately shaped the story of the game. Tales of Iron is an enjoyable 8-ish hours that really thrives through its world building and atmosphere, and while it's no masterpiece, this is a game that does not disappoint. Whether you're fighting a strange Thor rat or just vibing in the Ranger's Lodge, I promise Tales of Iron will provide you with a good time. Let's not delay, let's scurry into the world of Tales of Iron. Quick warning, this video will contain plot spoilers on the game. You have been warned. Also, if you enjoy the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks.
If he'd known how unlike a dream today would be, he might have stayed in his bed.
Let's start with the gameplay, shall we? We control our main character, King Redgi the Rat King. No, not the scary kind of Rat King like where they all group together or that thing from The Last of Us 2, but like a normal rat with a crown. Redgi has a host of different weapons to choose from that consist of 3 different types of one-handed weapons, 3 types of two-handed weapons, and 3 types of ranged weapons. For the melee weapons, we have swords, spears, and axes, and for the ranged weapons, we have bows, crossbows, and firearms. All of these weapons have different attacks and are beneficial in different situations, but I like switching it up to whatever had the best damage output at the time. Though I will say I had a slight preference to spears, as they have the best range. There are different situations when the different types of weapons are appropriate. For instance, shielded enemies are nearly invulnerable to one-handed weapons, but a charged two-hand attack can stun them for a bit if you manage to get it off in time. Some enemies will fly away and you'll waste your time chasing them, when the simple solution is to just shoot them down with a bow. Different strokes for different folks, right? Is that the right time for that saying? I have no idea, but I'm gonna use it here. Anyway, we also have access to shields that we can use to block and parry different attacks. Enemies attack in 4 primary different ways. The first is a basic attack you can block with a shield, signaled by a white alert sign. The next is an unblockable attack that must be dodged, signaled by a red alert sign. Then we have a parry attack, signaled by a yellow sign, and an AoE attack, signaled by a red or pink circle. I say red or pink because I have no idea what color that is. As you can see, the combat is relatively simple and formulaic, or at least it sounds that way. In practice, it can actually be really difficult to memorize the correct reactions to each attack, and it especially becomes difficult when managing multiple enemies at once. The enemy AI is solid. They'll surround you and coordinate their attacks so you can't get a safe hit in, and you ultimately end up feeling like the world's worst exterminator at times. I think the studio has really good execution on the gameplay, as even though it's relatively simple and easy to learn, it's extremely difficult to master, which creates a quality gaming experience, where it's not too challenging, but definitely not too easy either. As for the non-combat gameplay, I think this is a weakness of the game. The platforming can be frustrating at times, and for some reason, the character just feels heavy. I'm not sure why, but I feel like I've just eaten a huge Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm having trouble jumping up to a short ledge, and this feeling of heaviness persisted throughout the game for me. This fat rat needs a diet. Sorry, Redgi. To mitigate this weakness though, I will say the scenery and art of the world are fantastic. I love the aesthetic, the layout of the castle, and how the world goes from burned down in the beginning to a thriving town by the end. The scenery changes with the plot as villagers make repairs and recover from the destruction, and this adds to the world building that really makes you feel like you're accomplishing something as part of this world. This is where I feel this game is reaching power level over 9,000 because this is peak world building here, from an indie studio especially. Overall, while the gameplay is simple, it remains challenging and enjoyable, and what it lacks in platforming and traversal, it more than makes up for with some stellar world building and atmosphere. Now I know you probably have some questions at this point, so let's pivot to the story of the game.
When his squire woke him with this god-awful noise, the young prince was dreaming about this day, just like he had for months. Now it was here, he better be ready.
First and foremost, you're probably wondering what the hell is this game and why are we a squeaking rat king? Well, a little backstory here, the development team actually thought this would be their studio's last game, so they wanted to make a story about a species fighting and sacrificing everything to rebuild their kingdom and their legacy. And what better character to use than their pet rats? That's right, the characters are named after their pet rats. Now we can skip over the sad detail that rats generally only live around 2 to 4 years and likely didn't make it through the development cycle and focus on our main character Redgi. Redgi is the runt of the family and is much smaller than his brothers, but his dreams are to take his father's place as king despite his small stature. Redgi is skilled in combat, and after proving his skill against his brother Dennis, his father is killed by an Olympic level accurate javelin throw.
He'd done it. He'd proved himself a worthy heir to his father's kingdom.
Okay, I know it's sad, but that was kinda sick. After getting our butt kicked by the frog forces, we awaken to a destroyed kingdom with our chef brother and blacksmith brother missing. Well, we are technically the king now, and instead of having peasants handle our duties, the best way to get something done is to do it yourself. So we head to the nearby town, do a little frog gigging, and rescue our brothers from being chained up in a decrepit old barn and an old watchtower. After taking out a few bosses, of course, and traveling through everybody's favorite type of gaming level, sewers. I mean Resident Evil 2, Elden Ring, who doesn't love some maze-like sewers? Right. Right, guys? Well, now we need gold to repair the castle, so we do some side quests, kick some various other animals' butts, and then we find out we need to go down to the ancient crypt. Well, apparently there's a lot of zombie rats down here, which feels like a bad drug-induced nightmare, and we accidentally run into a rat Thor. Yeah, like the Marvel Thor, and we take his overpowered hammer weapon to help breeze through the rest of the game. Nice. Well, we run into some moles down here, and this game goes from Rat Hollow Knight to Rat Metro real quick. The mole has a car, and all we have to do is get some fuel for it. But to get the fuel, we have to get some cheesecake, and to get the cheesecake, we have to get some gold, so we decide to partake in the arena battles to earn some of that extra gold. We get the cheesecake, which in turn leads us to get the fuel, and then we head back up to the surface. Well, once we come back to the surface, we find that the frogs are in the mines, and sitting on our throne is just going to have to wait. After destroying everything in the mines, we learn that the frogs set up a trap and have attacked the kingdom. Well, we grab a gas mask, because what the hell, why not have a rat and a gas mask at this point and chase the frogs to their homeland where our little mole friend is killed? Which, like, come on, man. He was cute. Why'd he have to die? And then our brother is fake killed to our father's murderer, so we avenge our father and what we think is our brother at the time, and find out thankfully our brother is still alive. And then we retake our spot on the throne of the Rat King, living out our days as a hero and savior of the rats.
It was the start of a true golden age, free of the scourge of frog spawn. Working with the molefolk below, they built a new kingdom of steam and industry and wonder. But that is, as they say, a tale for another time.
Did I mention I'm terrified of rats? They didn't bother me in this game, but something about being a savior of the rat species feels weird to me given they're my greatest fear. Well, I guess I'm just a silly elephant or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, the story is pretty simple. We've seen it done time and time again. Family member murdered by oppressive regime, unlikely hero goes on a quest to avenge said family member and save their people. What we haven't seen is that done with rats. Well, no, the Rats of Nim doesn't count. No, neither does the Tale of Despero. Okay, fine. The story may be simple, but that's not the strength of the game at all. The strength of the game is the world building and progression enhanced by an engaging combat system. And I mean, come on, Geralt is the narrator, guys. The Witcher. That has to count for something, right? Jokes aside, who doesn't love a good heroic vengeance story from an unlikely hero? The reason it's been done so many times is because it works. Mix that with some creative new elements and you're gonna get a good product, time and time again. Despite my fear, I found myself loving the little King Redgi, and found their little squeak conversations summarized by our narrator to be adorable. Dialogue is told through images in our ever-present narrator, and I really felt like I was reading a children's picture book at times, which is a feeling you just don't get often as an adult. Or at least you shouldn't. All of these elements about the game combined to provide me with an unforgettable experience from a game I was not expecting much out of, and I'm so glad to have taken the time to play this wonderful entry from Oddbug Studio. While the game is relatively short at around 8 hours, this is an experience I think you should not miss. The gameplay is fun. Take it from a guy who hates 2D side-scrollers. I had a great time with it. The characters are entertaining, and the world building is something you don't see often. This indie studio may have had their backs against the wall, but man did they produce a great game that you don't want to miss out on. If you haven't started the game yet, what are you waiting for? Go chase that cheddar and scurry into the mouse hole that is Tales of Iron. Thanks for watching.
Redgi had his crown at last. but not his kingdom.
If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Also, check out my Little Nightmares video here if you want to hear more about another fantastic indie game. Thanks again for watching. Until next time.